It must be lived, felt, and practiced through inclusive participation, social justice, accountable leadership, and respect for rights and freedom. This dialogue provides us with space not only to critique what is broken, but to also co-create strategies and alliances for democracy renewal. Over the next sessions, we will listen to diverse voices from across the segment of people here. We will be leading these conversations by sharing with you perspectives on the current state of democracy and what stakeholders are saying around the country. And with us today is Professor Shah, who will be leading us in that conversation. And many of the issues bordering our democracy and what stakeholders are saying will be shared. And part of it is for us to engage that conversations and put on the table some of those key things that we think we need to be shared to get a better democracy for this country. We deserve more than we have. For those of us who have been part of the democracy struggle, sometimes we sit back and ask ourselves, is this exactly what we asked for? It is what we asked for, all the struggles, is it what we bargained for? But again, as students of history, we also know that history is not linear. It is not just because we ask for something and then we get exactly what we asked for. The struggle for democracy is a continuous process because democracy is not an occasion, it's not an event, it's a process. And the process is very messy. It is messy, it is not smooth. And it is that murky nature of it requires that we continue to navigate our ways. We have to continue to navigate our ways to find and make a better deal. Unfortunately, we're in an era of deal because Trump is making deals left, right, and center. So it's quite messy, it's very murky, and we all have to continue to work to navigate our ways in trying to define the direction of our democracy. And I believe for everyone here, you've been part of series and different kinds of conversations on this. And many times people tell me, when is this discussion, dialogue, conversation, when is it going to stop? And I say, when it stops, democracy stops. That's just basically what it is. Because democracy is about conversations. We have to continue to dialogue. We have to continue to discuss. There is no end to it. There is no end to it. So there is no perfect state of democracy. The perfect state is only when it begins to meet the yearnings, the aspirations, and the demands of the people. And even with that, it has to come the continuous process. Rights associated with democracy is never given. It is taken. Nobody gives it to you. They don't just say, come and take it. No, you have to seize it. You have to take it. And that's the essence of this kind of conversation. On a personal note, I want to also say that I'm welcoming myself again to this fold of these conversations. For us as SDA Trust, many of you may be hearing about this organization probably for the first time in this cycle. We're Pan-African organizations committed to building a just society in Africa. And we're driven by the vision that Africa deserves more than it currently receives. And therefore, as a people of Africa, we must seize the initiative to drive this process. And this is an initiative that we put together alongside other Pan-Africans across different African countries to develop an institutions and a structure of civil society that is organic, that is emerging from Africans and owned by Africans and driven largely by Africans. And that's what we're doing. And for many of you who have not seen me across leadership of international NGOs, probably in the last 25 years or so, I'm not staying too far from there. But this initiative that I'm currently leading on. The dynamics of the leadership may change in the next few years or months, but I remain the main driver of this initiative. And this is what we intend to achieve. And thank you very much for the opportunity. And thanks for coming. And we apologize for the delay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the applause. So we are going to progress quickly. We'll go to the goodwill messages now. And first on the list is Rebecca Sako John, the Technical Advisor, Legal Awareness for Nigeria Women. She's going to give us a brief goodwill message.
Thank you very much. Thank God you said please. I want to say I'm happy to be here. When I received this invitation, and I understood it was from how saying, like said he was our neighbor. He's our neighbor. Some of the things are still in our office. But we have acquired them. You know, when you leave your things for long and you don't come back, they become your game. So we have acquired a lot of things in our office. To say I'm not surprised because one of the things he has been in the forefront of advocacy and activity for democracy for quite a long time. The international development agencies drafted him, and he was doing quite a lot. But like he said, it's all towards the same thing. What we seek to achieve is social justice and participatory governance. I just want to say I'm lucky to have witnessed the end of the time when we were saying the military should go to this moment, which is quite a long time. There's been a change in the manner in which civil society has acted in terms of engaging government to ensure the democracy. A lot of things have happened. We've been going, we take some steps forward, we take some steps backwards. I don't want to go into the crux of what we'll be discussing, but to say that we must continue to engage constructively. We need to think inwards and see in what manner of engagement can we get the necessary change to happen. Because instead of us going forward, I seem to see with some actions that people are beginning to really, like Madam said, get the fatigue with our democratic experience. It's been evolving, are we consolidating, or we are moving backwards. So it's really a struggle to see in what ways we can really move forward so that we can say, yes, we have really progressed. Yes, we are no longer being locked up hybrid. I remember there was a meeting we had to go to Ghana to go and hold that meeting during the military era. But now you can hold it, but that doesn't mean you are not safe. There are new ways in which you are being guarded, whether you are civil society, an individual, or the media. So let's see how can we get the people, ginger the people to really participate actively to ensure that our democracy is progressing and not retrogressing. I will stop at that. Thank you very much.
Progressing along the progressive society. From that, thank you so much. Khadija, please, when they are done, they should come this way to fill this space. So we'll go on to the second and last good message we're having for today. Madam Mikhail Abubakar from Congress of Nigeria Political Parties going to give us a quick message.
We extend our message to the organizer of this occasion. This dialogue is called at the community time that the policy has started getting as the as you were before. So we are committed to support okay, well, those initiative, I'm not looking at all about support. The next is that the management rotations, the conditions. I think
The political actors, the political actors, just for positions, are supposed to get engaged. That is noted. I'm sure that can be noted. Democracy is not a one-off activity. It's a continuous process. So as we continue the next conversation, it will certainly be included. Now, we're supposed to go to the keynote presentation, but our technical personnel are trying to set up the projectors. Okay. So we don't waste time. Okay. To welcome Professor Dr. Hamsha, who is going to lead us in the keynote address.
Thank you very much, moderator. If you're not from Jaws, you're likely going to miss my name. You're likely going to miss the name. The way we call it over there is Doom. Doom. But if you are used to the English dictionary, that name is also there, but it's a different meaning. So many, those who call the name, they use the English pronunciation and the visit. So it's Doom, not Dawn. So I'm sure when the British will see the name, they will say, how come you didn't see any name? I just when I think that. Okay, so my name is Jung Pamsha. I don't use one of the names, which is one. So when the Chinese hear Pam Wan Sha, they say, this one is our own. I don't think that this one is terribly black. It's very black. Okay, comrades, colleagues, good morning. I want to thank Hussein and the organization for inviting me to be part of this celebration. And I think it's a celebration of knowledge production. It's a celebration of activism. And it's a celebration of what we often do, pushing others to be in the field of action. So it's not just learning about democracy or lamenting about what we have been unable to achieve. But it's some kind of plan that has been pushed to remind us that we have a role to play, and that role is that of participating in moving this country forward. And I think this is what I know Hussein for a long while, and I know what he has been up to, and I know quite a number of comrades that are here and what you have been doing. So thank you very much. I will not take your time. When Hussein said I should do this presentation, I was looking at this document that is in your files, and I said, well, it's something that I can do within a short time. I'm not going to read everything, although everything that I'm going to say is related to this.
Okay.
But let me ask the first question. Okay, let me define my scope. What I want to do is I will answer 5 questions. The first question is, where is Nigeria on the global democracy and development map? Where are we? Number 2, the second question is, why is Nigeria occupying such positions? Number 3 is to ask the question, what is the severity of these problems? How are Nigerians, discussing these problems, and what do they think, or how do they think these problems can be resolved? On our own, we need to ask the question, so what do we do? How do we engage these stakeholders who have made noise about democracy and what they think we should achieve? How do we pressurize governments and pressurize citizens to ensure that these legitimate demands are made? I'm saying legitimate because of what I will subsequently say about what they do. So let's answer the first question. Where is Nigeria on the global democracy and development map, global map? What I've done is to look at democracy around the world. Some countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland, New Zealand, Germany, United Kingdom, United States, Brazil, India, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Russia, Turkey, China, then Saudi Arabia. Among these countries, where are we? Where can we locate ourselves? And when I look at the democracy map, I look at the one of the popular documents that has always been produced, economic intelligence units. Many of us don't usually like that, but they are very consistent, in telling a story of where, each country is on the democracy map, certain indicators. And Nigeria is being ranked, with a figure of 4.3, while the highest, which is Norway, ranks 9.8. So if Norway ranks 9.8, and then we are ranking, we are being ranked 4.3, almost half of it. So which means that we're not doing well. Now, I went ahead and looked at the development pattern. What are we doing? And I simply just looked at the Sustainable Development Goals. We still have just 5 years to round up. So where are we? Can we do anything in 5 years if we have not done anything in the previous years?
10 years.
On the map here, I will share this data. I looked at 2 countries, from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America, from Europe and North America. And those that are way up there and are making waves, with high-level performance in the Sustainable Development Goals are the United States, Poland, Germany, Vietnam, Brazil, Colombia, India, followed by Egypt in Africa, South Africa in Africa, and then Nigeria leads. Nigeria, on a score of 1 to 100, when we were scoring 40%. And the UN yesterday um, requested the Nigerian Labour Congress and some youth organizations to do an analysis of the Sustainable Development Goals. And the report was presented by the NLC, of course, from the Labour perspective. And they found out that we are nowhere very close to achieving the SDGs. Put together all the SDG goals are not doing well at all. So we're wondering whether anything can be done within the next 5 years. And I think the position I was taking was that, look, if we want to achieve anything substantial and our aims to be recorded, we need both the state stakeholders, including labor, the youth, and everybody to be engaged. Maybe we can achieve something before the year 2020 and the year 2030. So this is, I'm using this to say that our democracy is not good, and that is affecting our development. Some may even make the argument that probably our development is not good, and so democracy is being affected. So it can be two ways, depending on how you want to look at it. I'm also trying to look at whether there is a relationship between the stability of countries and how their progress is being achieved. And these are very simple arguments that we have been making for a long time. A stable country is likely going to achieve more, right? An unstable country is likely not going to achieve more. And the graph that I have here, I looked at countries that I've mentioned earlier. And again, it's telling the same story. Countries that are politically stable, economically stable, are countries that are able to achieve high levels of development. So again, Nigeria is not doing well, at least on this sample that I'm taking. Nigeria is not doing well. Low on stability, and therefore low capital on GDP per capita. Now, why am I starting this way? I'm starting this way to give us an understanding that we are in our country with these kinds of problems. And how do we solve this problem? So we want to wear our problem solving caps. And what we did in this work is to look at the political aspects, our area of the area of democracy, the practice of democracy, and how we have been doing it. Because if we have not been practicing democracy very well, it will certainly affect the way we develop as a country. If our political leaders are not doing things very well, it means that we will also be affected in our development will be affected. And so this is the major argument that I've made. So why are we occupying these four positions that I've just explained? And in the document, you find that we try to categorize, our problems, because our problems are many. There are many. So how do we classify them? I say some are very, very critical and severe. Some are less severe. Some are moderately severe. And there's a need to have that understanding so that we will be able to, like some people in the civil society organizations, and all those that are very, very severe, then you know the kind of interventions that you develop to address them or to attack or counter them. There are those that we think we can, relax a little bit and do some more thinking before we intervening, then that's it. So we look at the electoral system. First, we say if the electoral system is poorly organized and poorly managed, then issues around recruitment of the personnel to run the Nigerian state will be the problem. So we mentioned the electoral fraud and manipulation. We will also mention corruption in public institutions. We mention an ethnic and religious polarization. I think you will agree with me that there is a big problem. And we used to argue, make the point that in Nigeria today, because we're so ethnically and religiously divided, sometimes if you smile, people will look at your mouth and say, this man is likely going to be there. So you interpret that. Or if you come, you will say, they will interpret it. So it's a very big problem for us. I listened to someone on channel yesterday. I don't know, I think it's close. Those of you who watch channels every 7 o'clock, there was the gentleman yesterday, I think it's from the Tinubu side. But he made one very good point about how we so polarize in this country, and it makes things very difficult and targets to be achieved. And I think this is a good point. Then we have problems of political violence and insecurity. We have a weak judiciary and rule of law. Many of us have said, look, the judiciary has been captured, and therefore we can't expect anything serious. We also think that there are those that are as severe, but again, lack of internal democracy within parties, poor voter education and apathy, executive dominance over other arms of government. And I think that we know that this is a big problem today. When whatever the presidency says, National Assembly accepts rubber stamps, then there's a suppression of the press. Colleagues, we also drew attention to issues around poverty and economic inequality. We cannot gloss over this. And it's a very key point that affects our democracy. And I'm sure you know why we are saying this. Countries that, whose citizens are poor and have high levels of inequality are not likely to have a situation where democracy will flourish. When we have gender inequality in politics, when we have weak civil society engagement, particularly in the rural areas, because that's what the report says, weak civil society engagements in the rural areas. So he said he did a lot of work when he was in ActionAid. There was this report that was presented on civil society, and it was shown that you have more vibrancy of civil society organizations now in the urban areas. Maybe at the national level and the sub-national level, but at the local government areas or rural areas, there are few. Those few are also not very active as the ones at the national. So we know what we have been doing. Even our discussion there and conversation is very key. But how do we encourage our younger brothers and sisters and parents to play such roles? So we also drew attention to the problem of limited use of technology in elections, rural-urban participation gaps, and then over-centralization of power as key problems of our democracy today. So you will notice that I have said so many things. They are the ones that are affecting us. So which ones do we think we should be dealing with? There are those that have that are difficult to achieve. You can say tomorrow we'll deal with that. But there are some that we say tomorrow we'll be able to solve this. And then what we did was to say that there are those that are very severe. All of them are severe, but there are those who think that we can reverse them easily, and there are those that we cannot reverse easily. So pointing out to the book, you read the details there. Even also launching of collecting money. I won't be able to I will do it in such a way that you buy a book so that I don't tell you the whole story here. But since we are not buying anything, even if we're buying, I don't say no color money. There are critical and very hard challenges for us to reverse, like electoral fraud, and religious polarization, political violence, um, and the compromised judiciary. There are those that we can also, they are critical but very, sometimes very difficult to reverse, like corruption in the public institutions. Very, very, very difficult. You're trying in one way, the actors are developing new ways of cheating. So, you recall in the past when it was quite easy to know that, look at the books and say, this money is missing. Somebody would say, actually, the money was in my custody. But when I was trying to look after the money, they saw one snake and capture. So they're devising new ways of dealing with it. And it's something very difficult to handle, but I think with determination and with strong will, we'll be able to deal with this. Executive dominance over other branches of government, we have mentioned that, suppression of press, voter education and civic awareness, gender inequality, godfatherism, yes, people who can front for others and ensure that elections are won, and yes, and and returns are made, political patronage and so on. Now, all these are problems that we think if we sit down well as a nation, we should be able to deal with this. Something that I thought was quite was good that we brought in this document was to look at what people are feeling about democracy, getting the voices, of people. And I think it's very true because we know what people are saying. It's easy, for whoever is going to counter that or to address that, clear. And so what we did was to look at the various, just mention them. In Nigeria we have very good people we call Marxists or members of the left. Maybe many of us may have not heard about them, but they're everywhere. They're everywhere in this room. Those who believe that things must be done properly, their ideology is Marxism, is socialism. We need to put a government, that's nationalistic, a government that can move this country forward. We insist, that government must work for citizens and for the working class. We believe that, government must control the economy in such a way that all profits or all, the wealth derived must be used for the development of the country. I know Hussein used to be a leftist. I know Clement used to be a Marxist, but I don't know now. But let's say they are still Marxists. So we believe in this, and our view is that we need socialist-oriented reforms that will ensure the redistribution of wealth. There is a need for economic justice and inclusive democratic structures. So initially we were looking towards the East, looking at Russia, looking at China, looking at those countries that were developing on the socialist path. And we think that at least even if we can adopt socialism, some components of it must be used in our development. But of course, we often say that we have to be part and parcel of the process of development and of governance. We cannot we believe that it is not this present set of leaders that can play this role. Although many of them like what is going on in China, Russia, and other socialist countries, but they are not. They don't have the political will, and their interests are so designed in such a way that they cannot achieve that. We have the feminists, and we thought that we should bring out these categories so that we know that as Nigerians, everybody has a say and should have a say in what is happening in the country and where we think the country should go. So that if you are at the stage where, or in the situation where you are, you say you want to rule, it's your turn to rule, then you must listen to these voices. You must listen to these voices and also address these concerns. So the Marxists are there, feminists are there, of course, affirmative action, asking for quotas, asking for gender-sensitive policy making. We want democracy, to be inclusive. I don't know what's going on in the National Assembly with the current bill of the second release. It's still being discussed. Yeah, because that thing is going well. Even if we have it, embedded in our constitution, and it may be difficult to achieve. Which local government or which party are you going to be asking? Okay, from constituency A, please leave that for a woman. Constituency B, leave that for a woman. Sorry? So I know there are special seats that can be allocated and so on and so forth. But we would think that the Constitution must play, because we've looked at several constitutions that have looked at, that have embedded gender and particularly women's representation. They're so specific. Special seats. But if we don't hold it at that point and you say, look, yes, we have agreed, there will be a problem. Okay, so let's leave it there. We'll continue this stuff. Colleagues, there are also minorities who are ethnic and religious. They are also saying they need a space, in the governance of this country. Federal character, they are demanding a federal character adherence, equity in resource distribution, and constitutional reforms. There are also people from the geopolitical zones of the country, geopolitical zones. And this is where our problem is. The northern Nigeria, they feel that they are demanding for wealth. First, they think that there is the insecurity is dealing with the region, elite rivalry is dealing with the region. I think that's the point the gentleman yesterday made, and lack of governance, good governance, for the people. Are you correct? Okay. Issues of poverty, illiteracy, insecurity, lack of access, to governance. Now, these are their major concerns, and they feel that the federal state, should do more in order to provide welfare, access to education, innovation, and also governance. These are legitimate demands. But we need to ask the question: why is it that despite the huge resources that all these regions, all these zones get, what do they do with the money? And we still have this prevalence of this problem. So it's not just to the northern Nigeria. Southwest, they are so concerned, about issues of electoral fraud, weak institutions, corruption, unemployment, poor public service, and lack of political inclusion. And they're demanding for electoral reform, devolution of power. That's the debate the Southwest have always been asking. The reconstitution of the country, through what they call restructuring. That's what they've been asking for. better service delivery, education, access, and job creation. Um, so when you get the book, you read the details of what we asked for. The middle belters are there. We are there. And we're saying, look, we need to be on the table where things are being shared too. So we're asking for justice, issues around the need to deal with ethnic and religious conflicts, issues to deal with land rights issues, and the demanding for justice, conflict resolution, and democratic stability. South-South, asking for resource control, regional autonomy, and infrastructural development. Southeast, they are so concerned about the constitutional and political restructuring. You recall they're always saying that they're the most cheated because other states have more, other zones have more states, they have less. So they're asking for dialogue and reconciliation, inclusive governance, sorting of presidency. You say for long, no Igbo man has won the position of the president. Although we have one in Abuja now. Oh, okay. No, it's not.
No, Rivers State.
Okay, they are brothers. Okay, so of course they are so concerned about the zoning of the presidential power to the east, creation of additional states, increased economic and infrastructural development, the resolution of high oil prices, and the rest. Some of they could be genuine concerns, of these people. So whoever is at the help of affairs should listen to them. Or civil society like SDA, because I know that since you're so concerned about stakeholders and concerns and matters, the idea is to ask the question, so how do we deal with these demands? And I think this is very key. Any person who glosses over the concerns will not be able to run this country very well. Because I know that if people make demands maybe for 10 years, 15 years, consistently, they're making these demands, and nobody is listening to them. I can tell you that issues of legitimacy, even the president won't be able to sleep well, or even the governor won't be able to sleep well. Because these demands are consistently on the table, and sometimes people are even banking the table. If you say, look, if you don't solve this problem, you will not, agree, like we used to say, we'll not agree. So that's something that we need to think. I won't go ahead and labor unions have their own demands, business sector have their own demands, as to how democracy will work, not how their own businesses or labor rights will be protected. All these demands how democracy will work. Political parties too, those of them that have been schemed out, they also have their demands. I work very closely with IPAC from the mixed family, and we hear their complaints regularly, what they think, how they think the political system should run, and how democracy should run. Of course, in the National Assembly, not all voices are the same. There are those who have voiced out concerns on how they think our country should run and how democracy should be practiced. So in the document, you also find that. Our friends, our colleagues, brothers and sisters who are people living with disabilities, are also there. They have also made their positions known on how they think democracy should be inclusive. Development partners, I think they have been very helpful to us. They're helpful in the sense that they've assisted, groups and associations to play roles that will help in, in democratic growth. And but of course, on their own, they have made significant demands related to governance and civic education. They have also made contributions to various programs that we have run. Of course, we won't forget the young people. We have also their demands. You recall they're not too young to run. It was a way of saying, look, we need to open up the space for all Nigerians to play a role. Democracy is not about the game of all people, it's a game of every Nigerian. So open up the space, leave nobody behind. And I think that's the very strong demand that was made. And increasingly, we're seeing little opening up, although not in the way that we want, rather than opening up the space for genuine participation in all levels. Like we see in UK and the Americas and other countries, see young people getting into political power as the president or members of the parliament or the local councils. I think some Nigerians are also members of local councils and also members of parliament in those countries. That are their young people. That's the way the system should open up and allow citizens to participate. But of course, we know here in Nigeria, when you accuse professors of you profess a lot, you say a lot of big grammar. Go there and change the thing. And they will say, so, we want to. But the way the system has been structured, have the kind of money that these people have, and they will use in buying votes. But we believe that if we have a system where we grow from the grassroots, we'll be able to defeat that system. But there should be some fundamental restructuring in the electoral process. Lastly, so what do we do? As citizens, what do we do as members of civil society organizations? We have a lot of recommendations here, and I'm sure there will be more. We need reforms. We need frameworks that want to be put in place. We need citizens to participate. We need the states to open up the system. And so what we have done is to say, okay, if we want to deal with the most difficult problems, for instance, we talk about there is a need for national dialogue. That's about unity. We need to be a united nation. So we need a national dialogue, we need inclusive governance, we need judicial reviews and reforms, we need anti-corruption frameworks to be put there in place, but to be pursued and implemented well. We need constitutional reviews that will help to embed inclusivity into our daily lives, not to exclude. Political parties will need reforms, and I'm sure that when I would say requested that this aspect of the document we looked at carefully, I was having in mind that very good. We now have a situation where we will be dealing with the issues in phases or probably, because there's no way with the quantum of problems that we have read out. Very difficult for us to solve the problems in one day. So if civil society can face the problems the way they are struck, the way based on their severity and how it can be reversed, it will be important to address them. There are those that require electoral reforms, there are those that require security sector reforms, there are those that will require legislative empowerment to play more roles in the Parliament and National Assembly. The media needs protection, and we need to find a way of limiting the power of the executive. Finally, before I end, I think we need also to make the point that we need to improve on our civic education. We need gender inclusion, we need youth empowerment, we need voter mobilization to ensure that we vote in elections and also consider and shape the pattern of democracy. Of course, there are many other reforms that we can achieve, and if we want our democracy to grow in this country. So this is like a summary of the 8-page document, and I felt that I should bring these issues out. And as you read, there are more examples being given than the way I've summarized them. And I'm sure that you can relate with this because it's written in very simple from English. And, from English is the one that we speak everything. We call it pidgin English, but it's not actually pidgin English. It's written in a way that you can always relate with the story. So thank you very much for listening, and welcome.
Thank you so much, bro. Please, if you don't mind, let's give him another round of applause. The long list of issues raised. This is a dialogue. I'm sure we're going to be dedicated a few minutes to having a conversation around what he has said. But before we do that, we have a photographer here. We are supposed to do a group photograph at the end of the entire session today, but they're on their way to another engagement. So, if you don't mind, please, we would like to take a short break, step out to the staircase outside here, so that we will take a group photograph. Then we'll come back in and continue. I'm sure maybe by then the tea break should be set. Then maybe we can have a working tea break. Oh, that's okay, like, okay. So, shall we step out for a group photograph?